Top 10 American Thieves in History. Welcome to Criminal Mindscapes. Today we're exploring the fascinating world of heists, scams, and criminal masterminds. These are the top 10 American thieves in history, with detailed stories that will leave you amazed. Let's dive in. Coming in at number 10, we have D.B. Cooper, the Sky Bandit. D.B. Cooper's story began on November 24, 1971. After boarding a Northwest Orient Airlines flight, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant claiming he had a bomb. He demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Once his demands were met, he released the passengers and ordered the plane to take off again. Somewhere over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper parachuted out of the plane with the money, vanishing without a trace. Despite decades of investigation, the FBI closed the case in 2016 without ever solving it. Cooper's audacity and the mystery of his fate have made him a legend. 9. Bonnie and Clyde. The infamous duo Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow were partners in crime and love during the Great Depression. Between 1932 and 1934, they robbed banks, gas stations, and small stores across the Midwest. Their crimes were often violent, leading to the deaths of several police officers and civilians. Despite their brutality, they were glamorized by the media as modern-day Robin Hoods. Their lives came to a dramatic end in 1934 when they were ambushed by law enforcement in Louisiana. The shootout that killed them marked the end of one of America's most infamous crime sprees. 8. Frank Abagnale Jr., the Great Imposter. Frank Abagnale Jr. began his criminal career as a teenager in the 1960s, forging checks to finance his lavish lifestyle. Over the years, he posed as a Pan Am pilot, a doctor, a lawyer, and even a college professor. His ability to assume new identities and manipulate systems made him one of the most successful con men in history. Abagnale was eventually captured by French authorities and served time in several countries. After his release, he turned his skills to good, helping the FBI combat fraud and inspiring the movie Catch Me If You Can. His story is a testament to both the dangers and brilliance of deception. 7. The Great Train Robbers of 1963. While this heist originated in the UK, some of its key players found refuge in America. The gang executed a meticulously planned robbery of a Royal Mail train, stealing over $7 million in today's money. They used false signals to stop the train, subdued the crew, and unloaded their haul. While many were caught, the mastermind Ronnie Biggs escaped and lived as a fugitive for decades, including time spent in the United States. The heist's precision and audacity have cemented its place in crime history. 6. Willie Sutton. The Gentleman Thief. Willie Sutton's career as a bank robber spanned over 40 years. Known for his polite demeanor and lack of violence, Sutton stole an estimated $2 million. He was a master of disguises, often dressing as a police officer or maintenance worker to gain access to his targets. Sutton's charm extended to his famous quote when asked why he robbed banks: "Because that's where the money is." Despite multiple arrests and prison escapes, Sutton's legacy is that of a thief who relied on intelligence rather than force. 5. Jesse James. The outlaw legend, Jesse James was a Confederate guerrilla turned outlaw who became a folk hero. Leading the James Younger Gang, he robbed trains, banks, and stagecoaches in the post-Civil War era. James's crimes were often seen as acts of rebellion against wealthy Northern institutions. However, his reputation as a Robin Hood figure was largely a myth. He was ultimately betrayed by a member of his gang, Robert Ford, who shot him in the back for a reward. James's life and death have been romanticized, but his actions were anything but noble. 4. Bernie Madoff. The Wall Street scammer Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme defrauded thousands of investors, including charities, celebrities, and everyday people, out of $65 billion. Over decades, Madoff used his reputation as a successful financier to lure victims, promising steady returns on their investments. His fraud unraveled during the 2008 financial crisis when clients began demanding their money back, exposing the lack of actual funds. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison and died behind bars in 2021. His scheme remains the largest financial fraud in history. 3. John Dillinger. The gangster king John Dillinger became infamous during the Great Depression for his daring bank robberies and escapes from custody. His gang's exploits captured the public's imagination, with Dillinger himself seen as a Robin Hood figure by some. However, his crimes were often violent, and he was labeled public enemy number 1 by the FBI. Dillinger's life ended in 1934 when he was ambushed by federal agents outside the Biograph Theater in Chicago. His story remains a symbol of the desperation and defiance of the era. 2. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum thieves in 1990. Two men disguised as police officers entered the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, tied up the security guards, and stole 13 pieces of art worth $500 million. Among the missing works were pieces by Vermeer, Rembrandt, and Degas. Despite extensive investigations and a $10 million reward for information, the art has never been recovered. The empty frames in the museum serve as a haunting reminder of one of the greatest unsolved art heists in history. 1. Al Capone. The mob boss Al Capone, known as Scarface, built a criminal empire in Chicago during the Prohibition era. While his fortune came largely from bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution, theft and extortion were also central to his operations. Capone ruled with fear and violence, eliminating rivals and bribing officials to maintain control. His reign ended not due to his crimes, but because of tax evasion charges, for which he was sentenced to 11 years in prison. Capone's name remains synonymous with organized crime and the corruption of the Roaring Twenties. Thank you for joining us on this journey through America's most infamous thieves. From daring heists to elaborate scams, these stories remind us of the thin line between genius and crime. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more crime stories. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.